Hey there, welcome to Millennium Milestone Presents, a site dedicated to storytelling in books, movies, and video games, and other exciting genres. Today, we're going to be focusing on a book coming out of not Marvel, not DC, but instead a independent studio which is starting to gain a lot of buzz and attention. Rippaverse Comics from Eric July's team with this comic called The Horseman. This features the writing talents of Chuck Dixon, who is known very fondly for writing Nightfall, the very story where Batman had his back broken by Bane, and also featuring Joe Bennett, who did art for Immortal Hulk, which was a very riveting series for quite its time. Now, why would I focus on this book when River has already put out other books such as Isom, Gyra, and Alpha Core? Just a little background with what my experience with comics is like. A lot of the books I read were like X-Men, Fantastic Four, Captain America, Teen Titans, Justice League, Superman, and Batman. None of them, when I first experienced these comics, were number one issues. I got right in the middle of long-standing series that had a long story already told in them, and little by little, I played catch-up and learned so much from the world. And it's such a interesting experience to do it that way because it does make you want to explore more of the world, even before and after. So with that in mind, The Horseman, I decided to do the same thing. I'm going to be diving deep into this book to see through the lens of this particular book what the entire Rippaverse is about. I will admit, when I first saw the cover and the title for this, I was thinking, shouldn't this be more cowboy-like than what this guy looks like? So I was unsure what we were getting with this character at first, but little by little I got more details about it and decided, you know what, let's give this book a shot and see where we go with the Rippaverse and supporting Eric July and his team over there. They're doing a fantastic job promoting independent work from artists that sadly have been blacklisted from mainstream comics, and I think this is a good way to help them out by talking about their books and their work that they're doing right now, and this is one of the best examples of that right now. With that in mind, let's dive into the book. What happens when a soldier without powers takes on a world full of criminals and people with extraordinary abilities known as Excepts? Meet the Horseman, a vigilante who proves that strategy and grit can outmatch superhuman strength. Just not always. Brief, that's the introduction we get into Hector Caballero, a former member of an elite military squad known as the Horsemen. He takes on the streets to go after drug cartels to steal their cash and goods, his way to hit them where it really hurts, in their wallets. This approach eventually gets more attention with more formidable opponents popping out of nowhere to kill the Horseman. His last bout in Drescher forces him to relocate and start fresh in Florespark. However, starting fresh doesn't always mean that life gets easier. Hector soon finds out that he doesn't know everything, and not having enough knowledge on the criminal landscape can get you into a lot of trouble quickly. Corrupt cops are onto him and blackmail him. The local cartel are just as brutal, if not even worse, than Drescher. Soon a price is on his head, putting himself and those he loves in danger. The only thing that Hector knows how to do in situations like this is to take the fight to them and put them on their heels before it's too late. That's the world that Joe Bennett depicts for us through the writing of Chuck Dixon. Bennett goes out of his way to paint a picture of brutal, close-quarter combat tactics the Horseman takes to put the cartels in their place. Chuck Dixon writes an interesting third-person point of view of where we get to see the thinking of Hector and the reasons for the choices he made once he left the military to go on this crusade. He also goes out of his way to make it clear that the price for being a vigilante can come with many sacrifices and drawbacks. Dixon draws on familiar but fresh takes on the themes of justice versus vengeance. It does have a tone reminiscent of themes like Batman and the Punisher, but there is a lighthearted feel to it, from the moments we get with Hector and his family. Even if his choices are questionable. Another theme that's also presented is that of being an underdog is driven in this book. Hector is a vigilante, not a superhero with powers. He has only his military trained to outsmart Excepts that can fly or even have superhuman strength. Not to mention that some of them can be bought for a price to make life miserable for him. Then the next theme Chuck draws on in this book is the emotional burden of living a double life. Being a vigilante alone is dangerous work, but the stakes increase when you have a family to look after and keep your identity a secret. Hector sometimes understands this and perhaps disregards it depending on the situation. Though these themes get a better understanding of what he stands for, what we won't stoop to, even if it comes with a hefty price. The supporting cast of characters that Dixon puts out help to enrich the themes in the book. From the cartel to corrupt cops to ex-eps, Hector is tested at every turn to find a way to survive each encounter, which increases the likelihood of someone getting hurt in the crosshairs along the way. Even his family tests his loyalty of what he is willing to do and not do, sometimes compromising to get the needed results he needs for a win. The art style of Joe Bennett captures the gritty and grounded visual tone of an underworld of crime and corruption. The splash pages and action sequences are well thought out and give us that added attention to detail, especially with the close-quarter combat style of the Horseman. We get up close moments of bloodbath and mayhem that is also calculated and sometimes instinctual. As for the strengths of the book, in general, the book I found to be very enjoyable and compelling. I was already drawn to the idea of a non-powered protagonist in a world of superhumans. The dynamic creates tense creative battles that emphasize strategy over brute force, coupled with realistic stakes and deeply rooted personal narrative. The villains were real threats and had to be outsmarted in order to be defeated by Hector without convenient plot armor. Especially when dealing with ex-eps with powers, Hector is a likable and complex character who is shown to have real flaws in his logic, but has a well-intentioned code of honor that stems from his sense of justice, family, and duty. Good traits of a hero in the making, even if you question the motives. In terms of a critique, I am neither a comic book artist or an established writer, so these critiques will come from me as that of a customer. Something that Rippaverse comics emphasize as their focal point to not insult the intelligence of one. Death or development of secondary characters are one of the things I do find very interesting about the book. I find that both the protagonist side and the antagonist side are a bit cliche and maybe needed at least one or two characters that were perhaps comedic to sort of round out the rest of the more serious characters. Maybe some good one-liners would have helped. Hector's family is unique enough, and the danger into their lives is real, but they seem a bit inconsequential to the plot. It's a minor issue and doesn't take too much away from the story that is already fantastic in its own right. The pacing in certain story arcs was kind of quick, and I almost wished that at certain points it slowed down a bit to build the tension to the finale of the story. Now, for those of you who would like to wonder if this is a book you should read, if you love gritty vigilante stories like The Punisher and Daredevil or Batman, or even written works of Chuck Dixon, you will not be disappointed in reading this. Rippaverse comics are still coming out with new titles that might also intrigue you as well. I plan on going on to reading Yaira #1 next to see how it compares with this book in the Rippaverse. I think Horseman is a standout for me, as he is an underdog taking on more than what a normal, everyday person can handle. The more complex vigilante life and intense action of the Horseman are good hooks for a great comic. I say overall this is a good book, and you will definitely not be disappointed in it. Well, for that's my take on Horseman, Welcome to Florespark #1. What did you think of the book? Did you like it, hate it, or there were things that you were invested in as you read this comic? Are there any other books out there that you recommend that are similar to this, or perhaps any other Rippaverse comics that are also standouts as well? As always, like, share, and subscribe, and best better believe I will be back with another video.